Hello, world. This is Hello Chaos, the podcast about the ins and outs, ups and downs, highlights and low points of entrepreneurship. I am your co-host, Jennifer Oladipo, a.k.a. Jenno.
And I'm your other co-host, Jennifer Sutton, a.k.a. JJ. And calling into the studio today is Akintunde and Eunissa Warnock with Assignment Agency. Welcome.
Welcome.
The Warnocks.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for showing us up with your setup there.
I know.
I think this is the first time.
Look fantastic.
No, you guys have an amazing set.
I think, yeah.
I love the colors. I love it. It's great.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you.
There was a real color theory behind the orange.
There was, yeah.
That's a deliberate thing. So we are so glad to have you to talk about your industry and also your entrepreneurial journey, especially building a business as a family.
Yeah.
So if you could just start off telling us, I want to say a little bit about the Assignment Agency, but I feel like you do a lot and there's not a little bit to tell.
Sounds like you guys have a lot of brands and companies that you guys have going on. So tell us about it.
Sure, I'll let you go.
I mean, well, the Assignment Agency is under our WF Media Group company, and that's our overall family brand, which is Warnock Family Media Group. And the Assignment Agency is the booking, it is the contractual arm. It kind of came out of many years ago when I was a comedian transitioning from my comedy club days to more of a Christian gospel ministry focused comedy. When I did that transition, I didn't have managers who knew how to do that. So Eunissa kind of became my manager, and she became my manager. So I really kind of twisted her arm to become my manager, and then she got very proficient at it. And before we knew it, other people were asking her to book them, and it just became a thing. So we had to form an entity to respond to the need.
So she was voluntold by you.
Yeah.
For those who were listening and not watching, there was a lot of eye rolling. There was some side eyes going on while he was talking.
Yeah, definitely I would say coerced.
like if you want to eat, you better do this.
I mean, because at the time we made the majority of our money doing comedy. Right. So it was like, okay, this is new, this is different. And so you have to have somebody. I knew how to do it, but I knew I couldn't do it myself.
Yeah.
So I had to have someone else to do it. And so I really kind of, it was some funny days that where she would be on the phone sometimes and I would be right beside her saying, say this. And I'm saying, like, no. I'm writing stuff down on paper and giving it to her.
Holding up signs.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's some really funny stuff.
So, and you guys have been together for like 30 years, right?
30 years.
Yeah.
30 years. Congratulations on that.
I met her when she was 6.
Yeah. Clearly.
That's obvious.
And Eunissa, were you a part of the comedy club kind of circuit too? Or no this was not your industry?
No, when we met, I was 19 and Akintunde was a master barber.
Oh.
So he was winning Bronner Brother hair shows and just kind of just doing his thing. And I was in college focused on healthcare. Okay. And so, when he decided to start doing open mic, and then I was like, oh, that's cute. Go ahead. And then one day after doing it for, about a year or so, he was like, I think I want to do this full time. And I was like, okay. And, we were young, we're in our early 20s. And I'm like, who am I to stop him from following his dream? But we've got to eat. So what are we doing? And it kind of went on from there. And he actually was doing really well in clubs. It was like 6 figures in clubs. He was touring overseas and here. And he did like 7 seasons of Comic View. And back when Comic View was a thing. And he was doing it. And he was just traveling a lot. And then his life changed.
So you mentioned, so for folks who don't know, the Bronner Brothers, that's a very big It's like a theatrical kind of thing, right? It's hairstyling and barbering and stuff like that, but it's not just about the cutting. It's about the shows that people put on.
Right.
It's bigger. The show is sometimes in many cases bigger than the hair.
Yeah.
It definitely equal to. In the first year I did it, I just went in there and just gave a great haircut and lost. And then I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, what? I said, oh. And then the second year I came back and I got a guy who was really good looking, really in shape, and we took first place. So in the preliminary round, and then went on to the finals.
So I was wondering, was that where you cut your teeth in entertaining, or was it something else you were already doing before barbering that led to you feeling like, and before the stand up or open mics?
I always loved entertainment, was always interested in comedy. I had a sense of humor. I was the kid who would joke on folks on the playground or in the cafeteria at school. So it was kind of natural for me to. I'm gonna give you guys some feedback. It was kind of natural for me to do that and be that guy. But what happened was, I then recognized that, hey, there's an industry here. And then we had a comedy club in Savannah, Georgia called the Comedy House Theater. And they had open mic. And that's what led me to really going and taking that opportunity and getting on stage, which led to me getting other opportunities. But I was always interested in entertainment. I just didn't know there was a possibility for me to actually do it and make any type of living at it in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. And then, Eunissa, you said then life changed. What was that? Like where you were like, okay, what was that spark?
He got saved. He found Jesus Christ and committed his life to Christianity. And so, his set was R-rated. And like all 7 seasons. And and so we for me, it was just like, okay, I knew that the way we were going, because our marriage was like really, really rocky during that time. And I just knew that the way we were going, we needed a change anyway. And so when he came home and he was just like, okay, this is what I'm doing, I was like, okay. And I just kind of was like, okay, God, how are we going to do this? Because, he actually had bookings that he had to complete. Obviously he was contractually obligated to those bookings. But he finished them out. And by that time we were actually in Columbia. And were you doing?
Well, no, I was in Savannah, and then we moved to Columbia.
Right.
So I had like two transitions. The first transition was just me like here's a wake up call, and then hey, I'm a Christian. And then the second transition, once we moved here, it was like, no, you really need to get really focused on doing this God's way. And that's when the full transition came to me saying, okay, the way I used to do it, I can't do it that way at all. I had to. Not everybody doesn't have to do this. I personally had to come out of the club system in totality because of the way I did it and because of the material that I was doing at the time. Like I said, what she said was a solid R. And so I needed a completely different change. Yeah.
So essentially then, when you're stepping out of the club system, you're cutting off your revenue stream and have to completely rethink.
And your network.
Right? Yes.
Okay.
People thought we were crazy. I had people, because by that time we had 5 children.
Yeah.
So by that time we had 4, I think.
Yeah.
No, we had all 5.
No, we had the first time I was 28. The first time. I was 30 years old with 5 children. I'll never forget that. I was 30 years old and I had 5 kids.
Yeah. So we're calling us. Booking agents were calling and like, Eunissa, how are you guys going to do this? This is crazy. How are you going to live? How are you going to support those kids? Because at that time, because I had 5 kids within a 10-year span, even though I had a degree, I wasn't using my degree.
Right.
So our total source of income was, comedy.
Right.
And so it just was a situation where we just had to trust God. Really,
it was a faith
honestly.
walk.
It was a faith walk. And yeah.
Did you guys know that there was an audience there and a community that was available to you, or is that something you guys had to build yourself?
There was a bit of an industry. Well, I should say there was an industry. We just didn't really understand just how much it was there already. So it was like it was there. We just couldn't see it until we actually made that step into it. And he's like, oh, wow, there's a lot of opportunities here. But even with that, the big challenge was people taking me serious because I had this was the days before streaming. So you had a number of channels that pretty much everybody watched.
Right.
And on those TV channels, I was on there saying things that contradicted me coming to minister or do comedy at your church event. So they would run repeats.
They were still running those episodes, and I just became proficient in giving his testimony because I was like, look, I know they're still running, but that's old. And this is where he is now, and let me just tell you our journey. And I just became proficient at selling him.
Yeah.
And that started us off. But we really didn't, there was only a couple of people, I think, like Jonathan Slocum, Project Rice, that was really doing, quote unquote, Christian gospel, whatever you want to call it, comedy. And then, of course, you had your people who were doing clean comedy, like your
Sinbad. Yeah.
Right.
So it was still a thing where you had to kind of find your way. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, we had to really figure it out. You had to literally like build business models, build marketing strategies. We would sit down and we would have to solve problems. Like there was this one particular ministry or booker, I think it was, that we really wanted to get into, and we sent them a tape. We put together this great package. We sent it to them.
Yeah, we called that. We're old, so these are during the time of tape. Were we doing tapes? No, we were doing
DVDs.
DVDs.
Burning DVDs.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had I take that back. We actually had tapes then. We were doing both. And we would put together this great package, and it cost you like $12, $13 to send it. And this one particular guy, the package sat on his desk for like 3 weeks. And he was like, oh, and then finally he called back, hey, you know what? Man, this package was sitting here all the time. Right. My assistant came in, dropped it off. It was sitting right there all this time. So then we figured out, okay, now we learned to create a mailer label with my actual picture on the front of it, with me holding the address. And we would paste that on the front of the actual
branding. So everybody that touched it, from the mailman to the people in the post office to whoever the recipient was like, okay, this is a big picture of this big black dude sitting in a chair, with this funny
holding the sign.
It's like, what is this? Right, holding the sign. Like, what is this? And they would just, and that would prompt people to open it. So we just had to come up with a lot of creative and different branding strategies, to get people's attention,
right,
and to make people open the packages that we were sending.
Yeah.
And so, how did you, walk us through the conversation of, or was there even a conversation of, it goes from, okay, we need to fix this income situation from our, sole breadwinner, to this is actually a business, to we are going to scale this, and because you represent multiple people, you're producing multiple shows and all that kind of stuff.
I think for us, there were some times when it was very strategic and deliberate. Like we sat down and said, okay, this is how we can, I think on the very front side of it, this is how we can, create more opportunities. And these are some of the strategies. A friend of ours happened to be a web designer. He built a website. Took him, this is back in the days when you did coding to build a website. And it took him like 2 months to build a website. But we learned like how to put together strategy on some level. But a lot of it, to be honest with you guys, it really was responding to opportunities. So we had writing opportunities. So a friend of mine who was a comedian, Monique, the actress, she called one day. She says her brother called one day and says, "Hey, would you like to write? Mo wants you to come write for her on the Showtime of the Apollo." I'm like, okay. Well, we had never done a writing contract, so we had to sit down.
We had to figure that out.
So we had to figure it out. Put together an agreement, put together a memorandum of agreement, and come up with a number. Luckily, the number was perfect; is what they wanted.
Right.
So it was like responding along the way. And then now we have a writing contract. Right. Now we have a set writing fee. Put that to the side. And it was just several situations like that where we kind of, in some ways, stumbled our way through. Some of it was strategic, but a lot of it was just responding.
Right.
Eunissa, how did you do that homework? I mean, I'm guessing by the look on your face, y'all. I really hope you actually watch this one, not just listen. But how did you where did you even get started to know what to do? Who'd you call? How'd you figure out to get that perfect price?
Well, honestly, it was just research online. Mm-hmm. We had some friends and people who were in the industry that might have had a contract, and I would call up a comedian and say, "Hey, do you have a contract that you usually use for whatever?" And because of we had the advantage, I'll say, because Akintunde did secular comedy for so long, he had a lot of contacts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he had a lot of people who he knew who were in the industry. We did a documentary. So we had a lot of comedians that we were connected to. So I had a lot of resources to pull from. And so people were just really nice because most people thought, y'all are special because Akintunde just stopped doing comedy the way they thought, right? Uh-huh. And so, they're like, sure, I'll send you a contract, So I just bits and pieces of different contracts and just kind of did my research, so I can know what these terms meant. Because some of the contracts, the ones we started out with were very, very legalese.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I would have to do research online and just kind of Google, what does this word mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does perpetuity mean? What does that mean as it relates to a contract,
right.
to content.
Right.
And so just along the way, I just started creating like a dictionary for myself, if you will, mm-hmm. of things that I needed to know in order to negotiate these contracts and to have articulate conversations with people who were way above my pay grade. Mm-hmm. But it worked out because even when he did the contract with Viacom for BET for his writing deal as Monique's head writer for BET, when she got her deal with BET, I did that contract.
Oh, wow.
And it was crazy because I was like, okay, they're going to send us a contract, but they sent it to us, but I was able to decipher and negotiate and go mm-hmm. through that contract, and really surprisingly just kind of walk it out. And then we had did at the end have an attorney look at it,
right.
And he was like, you got it,
mm-hmm.
this is it,
right.
And so it really was just faith. Walking out, just trying to tap into resources and just, really just praying about, okay, well, who do I turn to in this situation? And along the way, God just led us just every way, on who to talk to in order to get the information.
And you did your due diligence,
She did do a due diligence. Yeah. I would say this to Eunissa's credit. Eunissa has negotiated some pretty hefty contracts in terms of with the largest cable network out there. She did the contract, and I'll never forget the industry manager who had more experience, who had done more deals. Eunissa actually wound up taking the lead in the negotiations and literally wrapped the deal up. The deal was kind of in peril, and she came in and wrapped it up. And he gave her kudos. Hey, like well, I didn't do it, you did it, and you knew what you were doing, and you knew what to ask for, and because he was afraid to ask for more money,
right.
She actually got us more money. In the negotiation, but so to her credit, I think she might have we call it back wet because she sweats when she's sweating. She sweats on her back.
Oh, good, no one can see it.
But the joke is, she'll say, I did it with my back wet, and that's because she was sweating. Her face wasn't sweating, but the back of her blouse was soaking wet. So, but she got it. Yeah.
What is Akintunde? I want to ask. What is what do you think is her superpower to make that happen? Because that is no small feat. Yeah. What you all are describing.
Need. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, hunger.
Hunger. You're gonna have five mouths to feed.
Actual hunger.
Right. Actual hunger. Like we put, even though I did have my degree in something completely different, we put 5 children, because our children are now adults.
Yeah.
We raised 5 children on comedy. Yeah. Entirely. And so just even to answer your question regarding how we kind of built that out in terms of building a business, what we started to do was produce, because Akintunde always had this thing where he just wanted to produce live events. Mm-hmm. And so even in between him doing writing deals and things of that sort, we always had something on the road. We always had some brand or some tour or something that was, themed. He started out doing birthday bashes. Every year he would do a birthday bash for his birthday and turn it into, so we never celebrated his birthday with, like just family. It was always the city. And then just turned into, our other brands, Search for the ones that, so we started looking for other talent. So everything came out of need because we needed more comedians to build our art, our arsenal of comedians, because people started calling me.
Yeah.
Right. And people started calling me and saying, hey, well, you got Akintunde. I see you have this agency. Who else do you have? And I'm like, well,
hold on. Let me call you back.
Right. Let me call you.
I'll get right back to you. And then I get on the phone, and so I remember sending out an email to a bunch of comedians and saying, hey, if you need some work, send me your bio, send me your headshots, send me your contact information. Yeah, and I'll start referring work out to you. And that's really how the assignment agency started.
Right.
Because it was just a need for us to grow our community. And then sometimes people would just ask for Akintunde and he wouldn't be available. And I'd say, well, somebody should be blessed by this money. It shouldn't be a situation where I turn the thing down. So then that's how commissions came about.
Okay.
And I started learning how the commissions run and with agencies and things of that sort. So just kind of grew.
I couldn't even get her to take the commission early on. I was like, you should get 10%. She's like, I don't want to do that.
Well, then we went back to the house. Well, it's commission on. Well, commission.
I'm talking about I'm talking about to the other comedians. Yeah. It took me a year, maybe, and I could be off on that. No, that could be a little bit under or a little bit over. It took her a while for me to get her to even take commissions from the other comedians that she was booking.
Yeah, I just wanted to be a blessing to other people, but and I knew they were.
You provide a value. Yeah. That's right.
Work is a blessing.
I got it now.
Great.
So,
go ahead.
So we're seeing what's the dynamic between the two of you, and it's a complex and complicated business. How then did you, bring your family into this? I'm assuming as your children aged,
are they a part of it?
Well, they were a part of it from the beginning, because I was going to say when we were. We were pressing out DVD. What do you call them? Burning DVDs. Burning DVDs. Yeah. We printed out labels, and the kids would be lined up on the floor. And we were like, okay, now you, the oldest one, you put the DVD, you hold it just like this.
Project.
You put the right, and you put the label on there. Now the label, that was you had to pick the child that had a really steady hand, because that label get on there wrong, then you ruin the DVD. You're like, you can't sell that.
Yeah.
And so we had them all out, and the one would put it inside the case, and the other one would take it and box it up, and then we taught our children how to do inventory.
Yep. So what's the count?
Right. What's the count? And so
pre-show inventory and post.
Right. And they would come, sometimes they would come with us to the show, and it's like, okay, so they learn how to work money and handle money and do sales and explain to people what was on the product that we were selling. And so they were involved from the very beginning. And then I will say the just hands-on, just being around and learning logistics and show running and things of that sort. And then our second oldest son decided to go to college, and he's actually got a bachelor's degree in digital film and videography. So he, has just kind of taken everything we've done to another level. And of course, and then he also does graphic design really, really well.
And he does animation as well. So when he came back from school, he would come home from the break and he'd bring cameras. Like, okay, Dad, I can do this. Let's do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then when he graduated, he just came home, and we would something I was just going to do would be a simple intro. Well, now it's animation. Now it's two of me on screen and all of that. Right. And folks would be like, "Hey, man, who did that? What did that cost you?" And I'm like, "He's upstairs." Right.
You're like room and board.
Yeah. So that spaceship promo. That spaceship promo where you're battling the joke stealer. Your son, he did that?
Yes.
It's actually quite funny.
That's actually our second oldest son.
Okay.
Who actually totally did the graphics and totally did the total environment. He storyboarded it. He did the animation for it, and he played the actual Joke Thief.
Oh, that's your son. Okay, he was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our kids are very animated. Most of them have a very, very
They have elements of our personality.
Yeah, they grew up with a lot of like people playing pranks on each other.
Yeah.
It was pretty. We're still finding out stuff they did
And we didn't know about.
We were like, what's that? Like several of the kids' pillows used to wind up wet. And they wake up in the morning and we're like, who soaked these pillows? And nobody would. We never for years we knew nothing. And then now that they're adults, my oldest daughter was
confessions are
like,
happening.
Right. It was me all that time.
But it just things like that. So they pretty much grown up in it.
So how do you celebrate? I mean, you guys have pretty much innovative and pivoted really, really well and successfully. How do you celebrate your wins?
That's a good question.
Eunice's waiting. She's waiting for the celebration.
She's like, don't tempt her to make another birthday bash.
Right.
Well, right now we're in a transitional period. So we just opened we've opened one side of our new studio facility. We still have a lot of work to do. We haven't even finished our ceilings just yet.
Yeah, we're renovating.
But we're open enough to do business. And so we just produced for last Saturday night, we produced a live stream event fundraiser that raised about, I think, somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. Still waiting for them to call back and let us know the total amount. But for our clients, the Lakes and Denny's, we did this live stream event for them. And so we're in transition. So
that was actually booked during the pandemic.
Right.
It was booked as a virtual event. So that was part of the pivot that we did. And in terms of going from a live event, because when the pandemic hit, we had a tour planned in Barbados with the island of Barbados. We had several things.
The TD Jakes tour.
We had the TD Jakes tour. We had several things in the pipeline. And over probably a 2-week period, all of those dates that got canceled and postponed, quote unquote, not knowing it was going to be 2-year postponed, with the
almost 3
pandemic.
years.
Right.
For us.
And so we did that pivot where we started doing everything virtual, and it was kind of foreign to us at the time. And it was just kind of like, okay, how do you do a comedy show virtually without an audience? And they, to their credit, he and my son, they figured it out.
Well, I have to give Hodge. I always say, anytime this comes up, I always say Hodge Fleming out of Detroit, Michigan, called me and said, "Hey, man, let's do a virtual comedy show." And I was like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Okay." And he was like, he said, I'll pay for it and we'll do it, and you guys. And I'm like, "Okay," and we did it. And I was like, and then 250 people paid for a virtual comedy show, and I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Okay." Maybe it's something here. And that's how it started for us.
Yeah, and that's how the virtual part started. And so, because, we're always going to take it and go to the next level with it. He was doing Tom Joyner's tour, Fantastic Voyages, for several years. And so we were connected to, or met the diversity and marketing.
Multicultural and diversity.
For Denny's. And she, is a part of Links as well as Denny's. And so we were just like, hey, what about doing a virtual event? And we just kind of pitched it to her. And she was like, oh, I love that. Yeah. And that's how we booked, the date. Right. And what they picked up was a brand that we have, another brand we have called Healthy Laughter.
Right.
That we've been doing since we were in Savannah for about 20 years. Right. And it basically just combines
comedy and health awareness.
Right, comedy and health awareness, and just bringing awareness to different health disparities. So we usually pick a different one. And so that's been a brand that we've been doing for several years, but they picked it right up and we were able to convert it to a virtual event. So, it's been consistently, like, again, goes back to that word need, that demand and need, to pivot and change with the times.
And then you scale it. From there is you put together a business model that works. You put together the pricing model. You put together the marketing strategies. And then for us, a big part of it was the equipment and infrastructure. Right. So it was playing around with different equipment. Oh, why did the show crash in the middle of everything? Well, okay, this computer doesn't have a processor strong enough to handle this software. Okay,
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So now we've got to go and buy another computer. But it just the whole process, step by step, brick by brick. You respond, you figure it out, and then you scale it.
And so how do you all, deal with when conflict arises and maybe everybody's not on the same working from the same perspective, because there's a business situation and then there's family and
How do we do that?
We never have any disagreements between us. We're always on
This is priceless.
well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I try, as best I can, to lean into what Akintunde is trying to do because he really is the visionary behind all this. I would have never. I never imagined entertainment and. I like entertainment, but I never imagined being a part of it. So this was truly his vision. And so I try to lean into him. He is, I think he probably sees me like he's the horse and I'm like the rider with the reins. I'm like, that's great. He's like, so like I'll wake up and he sent me 6 emails with ideas he wants to do because he's a creative, a pure creative. And I'm like, yeah, so how are we going to pay for that? Okay, let's talk about that. And then, so I'm really the budget person and he's more the let's do it, know. And
you're the voice of reason.
We try we try to find a happy medium. I mean, we had to find a happy medium. And we don't always agree. And there are times when I've done shows with him, very, very irritated with him. But we smile and put on a good face and we do what we have to do. And then, I say, okay, next time we're going to have to do this, that, and the other. And then there's times that he, says, okay, that we should definitely do it this way, your way or whatever. So it's definitely a pull, a tug and pull. And we kind of just work it out as we go. But, we tend to have even the color of this room that we're sitting in.
Yeah.
I want the walls a little bit different color.
Yeah.
But,
well, I think what we've learned to do is over the years, as we've gotten older, I think we've learned to kind of lean on each other's strengths and weaknesses and recognize each other's weaknesses. So I recognize that she is more of the numbers person. I'm more the marketing person. So, okay, well, here's a great advertising or marketing rollout campaign, but here's a budget that's going to realistically execute that. Oh, so we can't do that part of it. No, we can't.
Right.
Okay. So you kind of, and I think that's the only way you're going to really grow. I would always say to her, I said, hey, if the Chicago Bulls, my favorite basketball team ever, if you had a bunch of centers, or you had only guards, they would not have been successful.
That's right.
So every team has to have each player playing their individual part. The guards can't control the forwards. The forwards can't control the centers. They have to let each other do what they do. And I think if you figure that out and figure out what each other's position is, then you can really grow and have a winning team.
Yeah, and he would say he was Michael Jordan. I was
Scottie Pippen.
See,
Jordan Pippen. Jordan Pippen.
That's not bad.
That's a winning team.
Scottie Pippen was legendary. He was an amazing player. Yeah. He was a little bit emotional, but he was a great player.
Hey, Jordan was emotional too. He had a different frequency of emotion, and it came out differently.
Okay. There you go.
Right.
There you go.
And he was a jerk. I'm not a jerk. I'm never a jerk.
Yeah, that's what I was trying not to say. Oh, this has been awesome.
Was great.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I was going to say, thanks for the time. And, is there what advice would you give to budding entrepreneurs that are trying to get into the entertainment industry?
Yeah.
What advice would you have?
And if they want to scale like you, and really grow something much bigger than a one career.
Well, I'll say for me, because there are some things that I'm doing now that are here locally since we opened the local spot. And we're not so much on the road. We're trying to establish something here locally in this market, I think. And it's with the Chamber of Commerce here. And so I think that's I can say the Minority Business Accelerator Program. And so I think what that's providing for me, because I have been kind of figuring it out as I've gone, and a lot of my education has been on the go, like, just through, working it out, trial and error. Now we're kind of making sure that we get some foundational, we've got a business coach and a financial coach. So I think what I would say to business owners is don't be afraid if you're ready to scale. Right. Don't be afraid to get some advice from people who are doing it on a larger level, or just have expertise in a particular area. Never feel like you're too far down the road to go back and get some knowledge and some wisdom from somebody else. Right.
And I would definitely echo that. And I would say, whether you're doing a janitorial service or whether you're trying to be a comedian or actor, get up every day and go to work. I think that for me, that even when I first became a full-time comedian, I used to get up every day and go to work. And I'll never forget, years later, when I was working for the Monique show, we would go to the studio at 9, and I would normally leave the studio at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning on our shoot days. And what I heard God say to me clearly during that time is he said, when this show is over, you're going to have to do the same thing for your business that you do here. Yeah. Right? So, and maybe you can control it a little bit more. So I don't have to necessarily stay to 12, 1 o'clock because I control the flow, but you got to do what you have to do and be just as proficient, be just as excellent, even though you're not getting a paycheck per se, but you're still getting paid. And the way you do that is by getting up, having a system, being disciplined. Even when we worked from home, when I was working from home, I would get up and get dressed. Yeah. I would get up, get dressed, go downstairs, go into the office, because for me, that was me turning the switch on. And so I think everybody has to figure out what their system is, but you definitely have to I think you have to really approach it like it's a job, like if you were going to work for somebody else, a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah. That's excellent. Well, thank you so much. Where are the best places for people to find you and all that you're doing?
Well, at Comedian Akintunde on Facebook. And right now we're transitioning everything over onto our new WF Media Group and Clap TV pages. So even though they're up over the next, hopefully, 7 to 10 days, we'll have everything wrapped up and you'll be able to see these new platforms. But you can find us at Comedian Akintunde, at Eunissa Warnock, and at The Assignment Agency. The Assignment Agency is up. You see that. Eunissa shares everything from her, myself, and even our other clients, and or her other clients, I should say, because they're not mine. They're not mine. But if you go to the Assignment Agency page in Comedian Akintunde, that you'll be able to find us.
And on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, I'm Eunissa Mitchell Warnock.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, thank you so much. You. And Jennifer, if people are looking for more chaos.
Yeah. Well, come to orangewhip.com, and that is, orange the color with WIP for work in progress.com, and check out the Hello Chaos page and this wonderful episode. You'll have to watch this one.
Yeah, just watch. Just take the time to watch. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for having the best podcast title ever. I was like, that is so
that's I love it.
I love it. It is very real, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's right.
Take care.
Right, thanks, guys.